Oh, the Dallas Mavericks blow an opportunity in Game 6, but were there good and bad things to break down from it? Of course there are.
The claw struck again. That's all I have to say.
We'll break it all down on Locked On Mavs.
It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
Hey, Dallas Mavericks are NBA champions. Bang! Bang! It's good! And the Mavericks have won the game!
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and coordinator for the Locked On Podcast Network. And joining me, as always, my co-host, contributor at Mavs.com, the Game 7 sovereign savior, the one more thinking. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
Oh, man. Heartbreaker. I was so confident that the Mavericks would win this game, but you just have to tip your hat to Kawhi Leonard. There's a lot of stuff that we'll talk about, some decisions by Rick Carlisle, some Luka Doncic decisions, some lineup stuff, a lot of stuff. But the main storyline of this game was Kawhi Leonard, and Kawhi went nuclear.
Kawhi had one of the best playoff games that we've seen in a long time. Go back to, was this LeBron James against the Celtics? Remember that game? It felt like he had one of those type of games, which is wild because he had 3 shots in the first quarter. It was Reggie Jackson going nuts in that first quarter. Reggie ended the first quarter with 14 points. Kawhi had 3 shots. He only hit one of them in that. And then just the rest of the game, he went off. Second half, listen to this second half by Kawhi. 29 points, 11 of 14 from the field, 4 of 6 from 3, 3 of 3 from the free throw line. Just absolutely wild. By the way, +0 in those minutes in the second half. That's pretty fascinating. But
Law Murray, who was on this podcast, was it last week or I guess 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, from The Athletic.
From The Athletic. Great follow for Clippers coverage. He tweeted out tonight about the Kawhi wrath, and from the 7:03 mark of the second quarter, Kawhi scored 42 of the 68 points for the Clippers, went 17 of 22, 5 of 8 from 3, 3 of 3 from the free throw line. It was a +13. What Kawhi did tonight, Rick joked after the game. He said, come Game 7, we're just going to have to throw the kitchen sink at him because they've literally done all the options as far as personal man coverage on him. We know Maxey started off on him. He torched him. Then they're like, all right, we're going to switch it up. Then they, did the zone. Then it was Dorian. Now he's figured Dorian out. He's torched Dorian. When you have a player as good as Kawhi at this point, you just don't have the personnel. We know that. The thing that bothered me with it was, and the thing that was driving me nuts was blitz him. When he is in the zone like that, at least do to him what the Clippers were doing to Luka tonight and blitz him. Bring that second defender and dare a Nick Batum, dare a Marcus Morris, dare someone else to shoot the basketball. That was driving me nuts now because Kawhi, especially when Kawhi was getting the switch with Luka and then Luka was just on an island. I don't think Luka played super bad defense on it. It's not like he was just getting embarrassed.
Hand right in the face. What else are you supposed to do besides foul the guy?
Yeah, it was just it was almost unfair to Luka in that moment too, of just saying just bring the double when a guy's in a zone like that. We're talking, not to bring up the same point again, but we said before the series, what was the pathway for the Clippers to win this series? And is if Kawhi Leonard reestablished himself as a top 3 player in the league. And right now, after this series,
after this game,
he could be number 1 in the league. It's him, Durant, I guess Jokic, Luka. These are the best players in the playoffs right now. But right now, after seeing this game in person tonight, like I did against Kawhi Leonard, there's nobody I'm taking over Kawhi Leonard right now in the NBA.
It's wild, man. He has these swings because last game it didn't look like he was anywhere close. What did he shoot, 30-something%? It's wild to see some of these swings, but when he's locked in like this and when he's in and when he's on, man, he's something else because he can, the wildest thing to me was that Kawhi, if we talk a lot about Dorian and how Dorian, couldn't really shoot the three when he came into the league. And now, like, there was a three in the second quarter, I think he hit. And I was like, dang, how fast did he shoot that ball? Like, they flipped it over to him in the corner. A guy was coming at him, and as soon as he caught it, he was ready and hit the three. Like, Kawhi Leonard on his rookie year, how many points did he average?
Oh, gosh, I don't know.
7.9. You know who averaged 7.9 as a rookie this year? Isaiah Stewart. You know who else averaged 7.9? Tyrese Maxey. 8, but close enough. Imagine Tyrese Maxey, like 5 years from now, is dropping like 40-point games in the playoffs. Or you know who else averaged that close to that? Poku. Poku averaged 8.2 points a game as a rookie. Imagine like 9 years. Poku is like the best player in the NBA. It's wild the way that Kawhi has. Possible. I just had to think about his career, fully and just appreciate it, right? Like sometimes, like you just have to tip your hat to the other guy. The Mavericks could have sent more doubles. They could have tried, but they could have tried something else. But man, he was just on the next level. Getting to his spots, he's strong. He can hit shots with hands in his face, and it was just a next level performance. And honestly, I was a little encouraged because if he has to have that type of game, shot 72% from the field, 5 of 9 from 3. Like if he had to do that on all jumpers to beat this Mavericks team, then I don't know. Like I'm feeling good about Game 7. But Kawhi, man, just absolutely wild.
He took Luka from the opening tip. As soon as the Mavericks won that tip and Luka got the ball, and Kawhi was standing there at half court, was like, all right, Kawhi's going to take him from the opening tip here. This is going to be a fun long night. I do want to say this. I've seen some people doing the whole like Kawhi guarded Luka the whole game and he put up 45. Like he locked down Luka and all this stuff. He did exert a lot of energy into guarding Luka, and that deserves a lot of credit for the very end of saying, and Rick Carlisle gave him the same credit. He's like, the fact that he could score like he did at the end of the game while giving up so much energy defensively was so dang impressive. But they blitzed the heck out of Luka Doncic tonight. They brought doubles on him and everything. This wasn't I'll push back just a little bit on that and saying, like, this wasn't just a ISO one-on-one defensive matchup all night and Kawhi held Luka to, whatever. Luka finished with 29, but he had, 8 of those in the final 50 seconds.
He had 7 points in the final 51 seconds. Like
just garbage time, like layups. They were basically giving out. He had a nice 3 there at the end, but it was a kind of a quieter night for Luka, and it wasn't just a Kawhi locked him down all night either. That it was a team effort type thing against Luka.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Clippers forced the other guys to try and beat him, and nobody else really did. Like Tim Hardaway, we were excited, and Tim Hardaway Sr. was in the crowd, and Hardaway had another 20-point game, finished with 23, but it's not like he was next level in the way that the Mavericks need him, especially if KP's going to be the way that he is in this series. It's now just decided, right? This is the way KP's going to be in this series. He's not necessarily going to be a factor offensively. And Brunson, not really either. Brunson, what did he finish with? 7. He played 15 minutes, a little bit longer than last game. But there's only 4 offensive players on this Mavericks team now, because in the playoffs, it comes down to, those are just the only guys that you have. The Clippers only have a couple guys too. And Reggie Jackson was the difference maker besides Kawhi. But
yeah, I want to talk about some more Clippers for a second. Reggie Jackson, I thought, saved their season in the first quarter because, Kawhi had this insane night tonight. And I gave the Law Murray stat a little bit ago about the 7-minute mark in the second on, because Kawhi just didn't have a great first quarter. He only took a handful of shots, and Paul George didn't have the best first quarter either. And you're like, he didn't
have a good game, I don't think. Like he scored.
I didn't think either. No,
he was 6 of 15, but he had 5 turnovers. And I felt like every single one of his turnovers were momentum changers for the Mavs.
Yeah, missed 4 free throws. He did have 13 rebounds in this game, but he played almost 46 minutes tonight, Paul George.
Yeah,
which was expected. It's an elimination game from them. Yep. But Reggie Jackson hitting the shots. They were daring Reggie Jackson to shoot, and he did tonight. He had 25 points in this game. He outscored Paul George, and I thought what he gave the Clippers in the first quarter, he kept them afloat basically when if he didn't hit some of those shots, Dallas could have really. The crowd was great tonight. We didn't have a moment like Game 3 to where it was like this huge run, to where there was a few moments where the crowd was awesome, and I think we had some momentum going in the third whenever that controversial timeout was called
Oof.
that, people are still talking about it. But still, I thought Reggie Jackson deserved some credit because, he kept them afloat in the first quarter.
Yeah, he was kind of like their X factor. They had to have somebody step up. The Mavs had to have
Kennard!
somebody. Coming up, let's get into Luke Kennard minutes because it did not make any sense. I don't know what happened, but we'll break it down. All right, Isaac Harris, let's get into the rest of this game. Obviously, I didn't say the score, but the Dallas Mavericks lose 97-104. Mavericks will play Game 7 on Sunday. It is what they call a brunch game for the Clippers, at least. It's 2:30 Central Time, so Texas time. That makes it noon 30 Pacific time, which the Clippers are notoriously this season, notoriously bad during these early games. And it's really weird that this Game 7 is going to be played in Sunday afternoon. Like, just really weird overall.
37 hours from now, from where we're recording this, almost 1 o'clock in the morning on Saturday. So
yeah, strange. So
insane. Yeah.
So yeah, that is weird, but hey, it is what it is. That's the schedule. Like we talked about Kawhi, we talked about Reggie Jackson. He was a really big factor. Playing Luke Kennard, like we were talking on Locker Room about the changes that Ty Lue could make, and even on yesterday's podcast about the changes he could make. And I made the point, he's running out of players. He's running out of players he can throw in to try and change it. Their roster just doesn't have enough, guys that bring a different look. And apparently Luke Kennard was that guy.
Well, what he did was he looked at it and said, okay, well, when Luka's off the floor, Luka's the only guy, and this is one of the biggest problems with Mavericks right now, is Luka's the only guy who takes advantage of a mismatch, on the whole roster for Dallas. And when Luka's off the floor, what can I do now? Like, can I get some of my guys some rest? And that's when Zubac's played, and that's when Kennard played. I mean, Zubac's only played 5 minutes in this game, but it's like he kind of matched those minutes. There are a few, like a minute or two that overlap with Kennard and Luka, and Luka tried to get the switch that they just could never. Kawhi was just staying on him pretty good, but that's what he was doing. It's like, let's bring Kennard, let's bring Zubac in when Luka's off the floor, take some of my guys off, give them a little breather when Luka's off, and then it's like I honestly felt like Kennard got the better minutes over Brunson because they were guarding each other, and it's like you could tell Brunson was trying to, like, he thought it was a mismatch, but it just wasn't. And Kennard held his ground against Brunson.
There was that one possession where he tried to drive at him on the right wing, and he ISO'd on him, and then was trying to drive, and he tried to shake him, and he lost his dribble, and then Kennard got on the ball, and then it was a jump ball, or it was a Clippers turnover. And he just overthought it. Like, you could just tell that Brunson was overthinking, okay, this is a mismatch. I have to go take advantage of it. And he tried just too hard on that. And so, yeah, the Mavericks, that's a good point that they only have one guy to take a mismatch. And the Clippers have two.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's,
or three if you want to count a guard that can shoot when a big gets switched onto him, like Boban or, like Porzingis. Like Reggie Jackson was hitting some of those threes in that zone, while Boban and Porzingis and them were trying to catch up to him.
Yeah. And you look at the minute distribution for the Clippers tonight. It's like Kawhi played 42 minutes, Marcus Morris 41, Paul George 46. I mean, these are big time minutes. And, Rondo only played 10, Terrence Mann only 10, Pat Beverly. Man.
I've been thinking about this all game is that when Luke Kennard stepped in the game and played actual minutes, I was like, how wild is it that Patrick Beverly is the guy that he's the one that completely can't play in this game, and Luke Kennard is apparently.
And Pat Beverly talks so much smack. I know I tweeted this, but after the end of the first quarter buzzer, Luka is talking to Kenny Mauer, and Beverly comes over and doesn't even try to talk to Mauer. He's literally in Luka's face. I'm like, bro, you can't even play in the game, in this series anymore because of Luka. So what are you doing?
Isn't your trash talk invalid at that point? Wouldn't it just seem sad if you're a player and you just see that guy who you played off?
If I'm Luka, I would just be like, bro, get in the game.
Yeah, right.
You can talk your smack if you actually get minutes, a second in this game. And
I would just look at him and say, play first. Play first before you talk. Do as I play, not as I say. All right. So we kind of broke down the Clippers. That was their change, I guess, was Kawhi going nuclear.
Yeah.
That was kind of the only thing they did. They stuck with the small lineup. Again, like you mentioned, they played Zubac only when Luka was off the floor. They took advantage of last game. The Clippers missed their early shots when the Mavericks went zone. And that's the key to breaking a zone, is to hit your open jumpers, because you're going to get some. If you swing the ball around enough, you're going to get open jumpers. And Reggie Jackson was the one that came in and hit those jumpers in this game. He did.
And let's zoom out just for like 30 seconds and try to take Mavericks fandom, anybody's listening, try to take that off just for a second and put it aside. From a bird's eye view, the series is incredible. Like,
yeah, it's fun.
The coaching stuff is just like going back and forth. It's like one game, one coach severely outcoaches the other. Then they flip-flop in the next game. And then you have this matchup of superstars of Luka versus Kawhi that they're both just like otherworldly in the series of
whoever wins is best player in the NBA, right?
Like, yeah, and it's like everybody's going back and forth. It's like tonight it's Kawhi's the best player. The other night is Luka Doncic the best player in the NBA.
Right.
Like, it's a mind-boggling type of series. Like, you could and then take the whole storyline of like away teams like winning every single game. You honestly could do a whole 30 for 30 on this series. Like, it's that incredible of a series. Even though it's like very frustrating for Mavs fans because we're getting super hyped up. But let's put Mavs hat back on, Mavs fandom back on. And now let's torch some of these decisions that happened tonight.
All right, I want to start with Porzingis because you tweeted after the game a very snarky type tweet about Porzingis not being the problem in this game. And I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to agree with you that Porzingis was not the problem in this game. I thought he played decent defense in this game. He had some pretty good moments. He made a three. He had that dunk early. It's done with him. He's not in this series, at least. Maybe in the next one, if they make it, if they win Game 7, like, he's not going to be a factor offensively in this series. The conversation is over. I think it was over after Game 4, probably, right? Like, it was just done. He's not going to be a factor. It's just the way that the game plan is. It's the way that there's no. I don't want to hear any more people saying, "Well, why don't they get him more involved?" I had this guy over and over tonight. Every tweet I sent was like, Luka just looked off KP. Yeah, man, he looked him off. He's been terrible. He's not been good offensively. He's not hitting shots, and he can't create any offense himself. You give him the ball anywhere outside of, I don't know, 10 feet from the basket, or any time that he's guarded at all around the 3-point line, anytime that, he has to be 10 feet to the basket, or he needs to have people 10 feet away from him if he's going to be on the 3-point line, right? Like, that's it with Porzingis. So he was not the problem in this game. The way the Mavericks are going to beat this Clippers team is if Luka goes off, which he has, right? And if somebody else hits some threes, right? Like, Tim Hardaway has to hit more than 4 threes. It's just the way that it has to be. Dorian, he hit 3 in this game, but he had to hit more. And then somebody else has to factor it all. Maxey has to hit some shots. Maxey was so hesitant with his 3-point shots. He passed up a couple of shots in this game that were not that.
He doesn't look right. I don't want to.
He doesn't. No.
He just. I mean,
I'm just saying the status of him. He's not taking shots, and so his confidence, whether it's because of an injury or because of, just confidence in general, something else, his confidence shot because he tried to guard Kawhi and then he got benched and barely played in the last couple of games. It could be any one of those things, but just overall, he wasn't in it, and the Mavericks would love him to have like a 5 3-point game, or something like that. He's not. Richardson has been out of this series since like the beginning, so they're just running out of these offensive players like left and right, and I can hear people in my head going, it's because Luka handles the ball so much and he doesn't pass it around. And this Clippers team also just has swarming wing defenders that can just defend everybody. Porzingis has struggled all season with wing defenders like Derek Jones Jr., right? If he struggled with them, he's going to struggle with Kawhi. The only play the Mavericks ran for Porzingis in this game was a post-up when Kawhi was switched onto him. What was it? Right after halftime?
I don't know when it was, but any post up against Kawhi, I'm not really a fan of.
It was, I was just so flabbergasted by it. And so that was the only play that ran for him. Obviously, he missed the shot. And yeah, that's the way it's going to be in this series. Boban maybe can factor in a little bit. He did tonight, 12 points in this game. Like, that pick and roll action is going to work with him. But he was also 5 of 13 from the field. So that's not a very efficient Boban type night.
Let me do my Boban thing.
Some of those shots are because he's trying putbacks and he got like 4 offensive rebounds. I think they're all in the same play, and so then that's like 3 shots. But yeah, so that's where the Mavericks are offensively. And somebody else, it has to be Tim, basically, right? It has to be Tim to go off for more than 23. It's kind of just the way it is now. If Luka's not going to get 40.
Yes, I'm trying to figure out where I want to start.
Coming up, let's get into Boban. You want to talk
Yeah.
about Boban a little bit? We got to talk. I've done the Porzingis offense thing, so now we'll get into some more of what the Mavericks did wrong, what happened, that timeout in the fourth quarter that everyone's talking about right now that seemed to change the entire momentum of the game. We'll get into that coming up. All right, Isaac Harris, let's get into the rest of this game. So you wanted to talk about Boban. Let's do that before we get into the timeout and all that.
Okay. I do want to give out 2 cents on KP. Do you want me to do it now or later?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Well, the KP thing, since I definitely tweeted and some fans are really having fun with it right now, but I just don't think tonight's on him. I think it's like what Nick said. This conversation's over with KP as far as like forcing it, of trying to get
for
him
this series or for the playoffs or
for this series,
his career.
For this series.
Yeah.
The conversation is just over. We're not running the plays for KP. That's just not happening. And we know this, especially because Rick Carlisle talked about it after the game. He said, KP was asked about it after the game. He said, this is the role I'm being asked of right now. I'm asked to stand in the corner in the space. He's like, I'm willing to do whatever I can to help this team win. Rick Carlisle acknowledged that after the game too, saying, hey, he's been the ultimate pro about this. This is what we're asking him to do because this is what we feel like is best for the team right now. So this is his role. And now there's a bigger picture of, hey, he's been bad enough to where they make this his role because he doesn't have but as far as what his play tonight and the role that he played tonight, that's why I just can't blame him, because all they're asking him to do is to stand in the corner and, try to space the floor. I thought he rotated well tonight. Yeah. He had some deflection, especially in the fourth. He had a great deflection there. So that's why I can't put this all on KP.
He had 5 whole rebounds. His rebounding drives me insane. Absolutely.
Yes. There was a couple dunks that were fun.
He did. He had a play, I think it was in the fourth quarter, where he went up for it was an alley-oop or a dunk. I think it was an alley-oop, where he goes up for it, he misses it on the way up, and on the way down, he's already complaining. His hands are already up like this trying to complain. Yeah. And he could have just got the rebound right now.
He did get pushed in the back by Marcus Morris on that, but it kind of like took him out of the whole play.
Are we going to talk about the refs at some point? How have we gone this long without talking about this game?
That Boban Marcus Morris one was one of the worst calls I've ever seen in my life. Marcus Morris is literally holding his left arm, like hooked his left arm and holding it. And then like to see the whole bench's reaction and like everybody of like when he pointed the other way, and it's like, whoa,
wait, it was on.
And when Boban literally just set the ball right on the floor in front of the ref and was like, I'm done with this crap. And
what can I even do?
I was so shocked on that play. But let's talk about Boban. I love Boban. Love every bit about this human being.
Yep.
But it's reaching points where it's a little gimmicky for me. It's where, like, yeah, he had 12 points, but this is the bait. Like Ty Lewis is putting an amazing night crawler on the hook with sinkers and stuff and casting it out there and saying, all right, please take the bait. This is what they want. They want us to just, hey, let's just dump it down to Boban and just to try. I mean, it was some of us that were sitting together at the game were like, no, it's just, it took them all out of their offense. There was no movement, nothing. It's like, oh, okay, cool. Boban has the mismatch down beneath. And it's like, yeah, but he missed 8 shots tonight. And like Boban's not taking threes. Shocking, breaking news right now. No. All of his shots are, near the basket. So it's kind of this bait and hook type thing to where I feel like they're just trying to, like, this is what they want, right? It's like, it's the whole Zubats conversation for us of saying, hey, let's go small. Let's dare them to put Zubats on the floor to take advantage of our small lineup. And then we'll live with Zubats post-ups. And that's what they're doing. They're like saying, hey, we'll live with Boban post-ups right now. I mean, Nick has the shot chart on the screen right now if you're watching on
One
YouTube.
Of them is outside of the paint, and it's literally like the right block.
Yeah, so it's just, I love Boban. I never thought that this was the answer. Yeah, like, I mean, he was a minus in game 5 and they won. I still don't think it's the answer. I still think they should go small, and I'm hoping that they go small. I was shocked that he started tonight. I mean, he was a +5 in this game, so I'm not putting it all on Boban. I just don't think it's working.
Well, why don't they go small? I mean, I feel like we talked about this before, but they're running out of players. They're running out of offensive players that they can trust in this game. Richardson makes the weirdest decisions sometimes, and it may just be like his confidence or whatever, but he just makes weird decisions and takes weird shots and comes in and wants to get his buckets, which Who knows? He's going to be a free agent. Like, there's so many factors going into it. He wants to gain his starting spot back. You know who would really help in this series is JJ Redick. JJ Redick would be amazing in this series right now. But yeah, and then Nicolo Melli can't play anymore. And then you have 3 rookies taking up roster spots that can't play anymore. Like, they're just running out of players. That
Willie played 18 minutes. He's a -13 this game. I thought he struggled a lot.
He really was brutal in this game. There was a really bad stretch he was in. And speaking of Willie minutes, let's get into it. So on the floor for the Mavericks was it was Luka, it was Dorian, Tim Hardaway Jr., Maxey, and Willie Cauley-Stein. In the fourth quarter, the Mavericks had a lead. They were going back and forth. It was tied, and then the Mavericks had a lead. The momentum was kind of going towards the Mavericks. 7 minutes and 17 seconds left in the fourth quarter. Carlisle's about to take a timeout, and Luka looks like the camera is right on him. It was like the perfect director's decision to put the camera on Luka. I tweeted out a GIF of it. And he's like, no, wait, we're taking a timeout? No. And then he looks over at the bench, and he's just like, are you kidding me with this? And I tweeted it out with the caption, when your drunk friend wants to do something really stupid, because it just seemed like that's exactly what his face was saying. And so they take a timeout there, and then the Mavericks have their worst stretch of the game, in my opinion, besides when Kawhi just went crazy at the end and made it a 10-point game. But the worst stretch for the Mavericks was that 7 minutes to 5 minutes in the fourth quarter and it wasn't that much. It was like the Clippers scored 5 points in that stretch, but it just took all the air out of the Mavericks. It just seemed to take everything out. Mavericks got a few shots, but they missed them. And then after that, the Mavericks took another timeout after that and decided to put KP in for Willie Cauley-Stein after that. And so after the game, Kevin Gray asked Rick Carlisle about it.
Great question by Kevin Gray.
Yeah, absolutely. Do we want to actually hold on? Go ahead and talk about this real quick while I try and pull up, because I want to actually play. Well,
yeah. So in the arena, they go up there, and it's like, I was mentioning earlier that we didn't have a game 3 type of run like they had the first quarter in game 3, that the place was just going nuts. And there was a few moments tonight where the place is going nuts, but they had some momentum. The arena was rocking some. They went up by 7. You're like, all right, they got the momentum. And when Rick stepped out on the floor and called the timeout, Luka said, and I didn't, I'm obviously not watching the game broadcast, and I'm looking at Luka on the floor, and Luka just puts his hands on his knees like, what? And he's like looking at the bench, and it was a moment. It's like, whoa, why did the timeout happen? So when Kevin asked this question, he was very specific about the question, as you'll see in this clip. I was fascinated as he's asking it. I'm like listening to Kevin, but also thinking, oh man, Rick might get upset about this, because Rick doesn't always like specific questions about the games and like decisions in the games and stuff. But I thought Rick answered it in a way that was telling.
Kevin Gray, 105 through the fan. Rick, after getting at turnover with Reggie Jackson at the 7:17 mark and Tim Hardaway getting the and one there, what was kind of the thinking with some of the timeout that was called and some of the sequence before and after once that timeout was called at that juncture of the game?
Our automatic timeout was going to be coming within a few seconds. We had a couple guys that had been in that were getting very winded. The mandatories are 3.5 minutes. I thought it was a good time for us to regather. We had guys playing big minutes. The irony is, we came out of that timeout with a bad possession, and the Clippers called a timeout, in their front court, and they turned it over. And so it certainly, wasn't perfect. But you asked what the thinking was. That timeout was going to come likely on the next whistle anyway. And I felt it was a good chance for us to catch our breath there.
I love doing this. I love thinking about the psychology of all of it. Rick Carlisle knew he was going to get asked this question. He knew immediately. Yeah. He knew that this was going to be a question because he answered it. And he doesn't always answer questions like Isaac said. He doesn't answer specific questions like this. He knew this was going to be a question. He had an answer ready. And so I found that so fascinating. He made this decision to answer that question the way that he did, so directly too. Sometimes he'll just play it off and say, I got to go watch the tape and see what happened after that. He does that so many times. How many times does he say, I just have to go watch the tape? And so it
shows you that was a conversation. Like he knew it was probably in the moment. Like him and Luka probably had a conversation about it. It shows that it was probably discussed after the game too, as far as Like, it just shows you that there was prep going into that he answered so directly and so quickly.
Absolutely. So a timeout was going to come anyway. Right? It's kind of the weird thing about this is that, when I tweeted it out, it was before he had answered this question. I said, it's fascinating. It's a butterfly effect to see what if he didn't call that timeout. The Mavericks got some momentum and they took a 5-point lead instead of the Clippers. But that stoppage was going to happen anyway. He just decided to do it before you only get a certain amount of timeouts you can take into the last 2 minutes, the last couple of minutes there. And so he was going to a stoppage was going to happen anyway. And the winded player was Willie, right? Because that's the one he took out after the timeout. Like, that's the one he decided to take out. So he takes him out. And then, that was just a fascinating whole turn of events that happened. And it seemed like it was inevitable. But what do you think made Luka so against taking a timeout? Do you think it was just momentum? Do you think he was like, we have him here, but it was just a feeling of the game?
Because normally, like timeouts like that happen, after a big made basket, after, a couple baskets in a row by the team, it's whatever. And it's like they got that turnover and it's like, bam, timeout. And I think he smelled blood in the water probably. He's like, man, this is our time. Like this, we got to take it, because they hadn't had a huge run in this game. And he was just ready to inbound the ball and go. And I think, and this is a conversation, we're at the end of this pod, but this is a conversation too that not a lot of people's having tonight of Luka looked gassed. Like Luka has to get in better shape.
You were there. You were in the arena. It's different when you can see him in person.
Like he looked gassed at times, and it wasn't just a fourth quarter thing. It felt like it happened earlier in the game, but I don't think these fourth quarter numbers that Nick has been tweeting out and talking about on this podcast, I don't think they're just it's just a coincidence that these numbers are happening. I think it's showing that it has taken a lot of energy for Luka, and I think it does catch up to him at the end of the games. And I didn't feel like he had that same, and this is beyond, like Nick has him on the screen right now. I mean, and those 12 points tonight, they're kind of deceiving because, the game, if you were watching the game, they were just giving him some layups there, and he had a nice 3, but still it's just,
well, he had 3 with 4 minutes to go, and then he had 7 points in the last minute. So in the last 5 minutes of the game, when most of them were decided, he had 10 points, 10 of those 12 points.
And this is beyond, like, I'm not going to give him the whole, like, this is beyond the injury thing. Like, I'm talking about a conditioning type of thing. I know we've been having that whole conversation about Luka being the best player and all this stuff. That's the next level for him. Like, there has to be some type of conditioning thing for him at some point in his career. And this might be a moment for him. If they lose this series and he looks back on it and he's gassed again in game 7, which they're playing again in 36 hours, it's really like something that we're noticing, this could be a moment for him that he looks at and be like, all right, I'm great. But to take me to that next level as far as the best player, greatest player in the league, then I have to get in a little bit better shape to where it's playoff time, end of the season, end of the game of these playoff games, of these big time decider games. I need to be at the top of my game. I mean, you look at the shape Kawhi Leonard's in. I mean, he plays this entire game tonight, and then he has this insane run in the fourth quarter after he's been playing defense. Like, that's the type of shape that Luka's got to get in at some point.
It's a maturity level you have to hit too. And JJ Redick talked about it at the beginning of this season when he had JJ Barea on, and they talked about that's the next step for him. This is the known thing for Luka. And yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see him to make that decision. Also, let's just not put aside that this season has been brutal for these guys. Like, we're seeing injuries all over the place. The Lakers guys have been injured. You had Jamal Murray get hurt. You had Donovan Mitchell and Conley now with injuries. Like, there's just so many guys left and right dealing with injuries. The Clippers were dealing with some things here and there, but by and large, they're 100%, right? There's nobody on their team that's really dealing with anything serious. So this is a healthy team, and healthy teams like them, the Suns, even though they had their Chris Paul thing, these healthy teams are moving on, right? It just seems like that's the way that it goes in some of these first round series, especially in the West. It's a bloodbath, man. But yeah Luka is dealing with his conditioning for sure. Anything else? I feel like there's a couple of things we haven't hit in this game, but you won't hear from us again until after Game 7. So, man, Game 7 is going to be huge, man. I love Game 7s, but when your team is in it, it's a little different. Oh, yeah, one thing I did want to say about that Carlisle quote earlier. He mentioned that right after the Mavericks had a bad possession after that timeout, and then the Clippers gave it back. The Clippers gave the Mavericks so many gifts tonight, right? It seemed like every time the Mavericks had a bad turnover, the Clippers also had one. And so this Clippers team, it's not like it was just a dominating game and they just came in and won. Like, this Clippers team was asking to lose this game a lot, I thought, and it was just for Kawhi. There's all the jokes on Twitter about people saying Clippers wanted to go 1-2-3 Cancun, and Kawhi was like, "I'm not ready yet. I gotta renew my passport first before I go out there."
For sure. I mean, we did the whole fill in the blank game on yesterday's pod and saying, the Mavericks win this game and my answer was if the Clippers shoot lower than 36% from three. They hit 10 threes tonight. They shot 29% from three. So guess who was wrong? This guy, me. And it's like,
well, but the Mavericks were 11 of 34. They were only 32%. So, like, the Mavericks had to be better on threes than the Clippers.
And it just goes to show you, like, whatever you want to predict, like, this series has been so weird. Whatever you want to predict about this series, you just, at this point, just throw it out the window because teams are winning in different fashions from the best players and Kawhi and Luka at 3-point percentages and free throws.
I mean, you want to point to another factor that factored into this game. We talked about the refs and how it was just a weirdly officiated game. Both sides were doing the, what is going on? Why is this a foul? Why isn't this a foul? Mavericks took 14 free throws tonight, and they only missed 2 of them, by the way. So Mavericks hitting their free throws. Clippers, 28 free throws. They took twice as many free throws as the Mavericks. And it's not like they were playing super fast. This was a slow, slog it out game where neither team was really that efficient offensively until Kawhi took over. So to have twice as many free throws as the Mavericks, that is pretty wild.
Yeah. Gotta get that LA market.
The Mavericks weren't attacking as much, so they didn't have as many opportunities, but still, I mean, I still think that twice as many, 14 more free throws than the other team, that was interesting to me.
Yeah.
Take it as you will. That's what I said on Twitter. Take it
as you will. But no, we obviously go into Game 7 on Sunday, and I thought Rachel Nichols had a great question to Rick after the game of saying, at this point, are there adjustments to be made, or are you just throwing everything out and just saying, all right, just go play? And that's the, Rick kind of pushed back a little bit and was like, well, I think, who knows? There might be some adjustments here and there, but
I can save my job now. I can still save my job.
It's just, it feels like such a long series. We've seen so much, game 1 was, Zubats and all this. It's like this series it's a different chapter every game.
You guys remember when Nicolo Melli played in this series? Doesn't that seem like forever ago?
When did that happen? Like, this is
2 games he played.
You remember when Pat Beverly played in this series? And it's just like, it's just crazy to see all the different turns that this series has taken. And now it sets up for this Game 7 to where, will there be some crazy adjustment by Rick or Enio, or will they just roll out the same squads and say, let's do this again and let's just see what happens? Will it be a Kawhi Luka duel? Will somebody else, who will be, the Reggie Jackson of that game? Will it be a Tim Hardaway? It's going to be fascinating. The Lakers, the Mavericks have proved that they can win in LA, and we know that. So it's just going to be a crazy Game 7 at lunchtime.
Going to Game 7, baby. I don't have the drop, but Game 7. We'll talk to you guys after that.
Peace out.
Boom.